Hey, Mystic Magic fans. There's going to be a wonderfully powerful show today. My guest is Reverend Sheila McKeithen, Reverend Dr. Sheila R. McKeithen. She is the current president of the Universal Foundation for Better Living. She assumed leadership of the foundation in January 2015, and she succeeded her late mentor, the Reverend Dr. Mary Tumpkin. And of course, Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon was the first president of the Universal Foundation for Better Living. Dr. Sheila has proven these principles in her life. Reverend Sheila, as she is affectionately called, believes that her mission is to be a vehicle for hope and healing while living in humble surrender to the truth that her life work comes through her, but it originates out of the depths of divine spirit. This is truly going to be special. Stay tuned. This is Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives. Hey, Mystic Magic podcast fans. We have a fabulous episode today. Today, I am with the Reverend Dr. Sheila McKeithen. She's the president of Universal Foundation for Better Living. She's based out of Jamaica. She's a wonderful spiritual being, a powerful speaker, a mastermind when it comes to business, when it comes to being there for her clients in the legal system. She is this wonderful presence that we get to be with today. And so welcome, Reverend Sheila.
Thank you for having me. God bless you. And hello, everybody.
Yeah. So now you are only the third president in the over 40-year history of UFBL, succeeding your late mentor, Reverend Mary Tumpkin. And Reverend Mary Tumpkin, too, was a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So why or how did you become Reverend Mary's mentee?
Well, I attended her church, the church that she pastored, the Universal Truth Center for Better Living in Miami, Florida. And so I was a part of her early congregation when it was just getting off of the ground. And when I went on the day that I attended, that first Sunday, I was invited by Les Brown because her church grew out of a group that Les Brown had. And when it started to like be molded into a church, he wasn't going to do church because he was on his path to become a motivational speaker. So I knew Les before he became Les Brown, the motivator, the motivational speaker. And he invited me to church. And I went to church and I heard Mary preach from Genesis first chapter. And I had never heard anything like that. I've got to come back. And he's going to say next week. And so every week it was like that. So I was never really, you know, how some people say, I'm going to mentor and she's going to do this. She was just my teacher. And she was actually in class at the time studying with Dr. Johnnie Colemon and Reverend Helen Carry. And so, you know, and then she would come in on Sundays and she would preach and then she would go back to Chicago and study. And so that's how it all started. And all I can tell you, Celeste, because I get this question a lot, and that is that I saw what she was trying to do, and I thought it was so important that all I was doing was helping Mary. I was never trying to like be in, you know, get a position or anything. I was just helping wherever I can. I started with bulletin boards and newsletters, not just me, other people too. And and then one day I went off to study to be a teacher. I don't even think I knew what I was doing, but I did that. And then I began to teach. And then I became the adult education director. And then she started asking me, can you represent me with the choir and then represent me with the youth department and represent me with this and represent me with that. And then one day she asked me, she says, I'm asking you to do one or two things. You can say no to either one. And, you know, and that's how I became a member of the board of directors. She invited me to be on. And of course, you know, you have to go through a process, but, you know, she actually opened that possibility up for me. And, and so I served on the board of directors of our organization. And then I just kept helping Mary. And then at some point, when I decided to pursue ministry, which I don't really think it was me, it was something in me that kind of took over and did that. But anyway, she always supported me because I was working full time. I mean, I was either an undercover cop, or I was a law student, or I was an attorney. That was my journey. That was my path. And that's what I was doing. So I was never trying to be anything in the church, but I wanted to help Mary. So even when she asked me to come to Jamaica for 6 months, she never asked me to quit my job. And she told me, I'm never going to ask you to quit your job, so you won't say, you told me to quit my job. So she says, I'm going to ask you to go for 6 months. And of course, my boss worked all of that out. I didn't work it out. My boss did at the AG's office. And I did that. And I'm here today. And I've just started my 26th year.
Wow. I didn't even know you went back that far. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because Mary Tumpkin was no nonsense, and she spotted you. She saw your light.
Well,
wow. And you were just doing service.
Yeah, I was
That's
just
a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I say to people all the time, some people come in with a goal. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be president. I'm going to do that. None of that. Wherever I am, it's because I've been moved there by the presence and power. It wasn't because I was trying to, do something. I saw what she was doing and I wanted to help.
So out of all of the wonderful insight and wisdom that she had, what is the one thing that she taught you that kind of stands out over everything else?
Well, over everything else from Mary, what you get if you really knew her is that she emphasized the importance of study, so that when you spoke, you didn't speak from what you had gleaned, but you spoke from the overflow of what you had gleaned.
Yes.
In other words, she believed you should never tap into your well, that you should be so full of the God wisdom that it overflows. And so that would be the touching of the hem of the garment. But you don't tap into the well itself because you are always keeping it full through your time of study. She was a big studier. And I thought that she was really at her best. I said, Mary, if you could be on a college campus teaching, that would be heaven for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
that would be
I remember one time at an INTA conference, she said she didn't loan her books out.
No.
She said, I will loan you my money before I will loan you my books.
Absolutely.
And I said, that's a good idea. Now I tell people that.
Yeah, I don't loan my books either. I will buy you a book, but you won't get my book because you don't get it back. And some of them, you can't even get again. And she loved books. You would see books coming into Mary's office, 2, 3 a week. She'd be ordering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are the senior minister of the Universal Center of Truth in Kingston, Jamaica. Now, Jamaica is known for its no problem mindset, right? So how has New Thought taken in that part of the Caribbean? Are they willing to do the hardcore metaphysics? What resonates most about the teaching of practical spirituality in Jamaica?
Well, I think that, first of all, Jamaica is a pretty tough market. And I say that because if you look at the Guinness Book of World Records, it reports that there are more churches per capita in Jamaica than any place in the world. And of course, they're not New Thought churches, right? And so the Protestant teaching, the Catholicism is very, very, very thick here. Very thick, very thick. And so, once you know that, you then, do what you have to do based on what you have to do and how you have to do it. And so for me, I think that the message is penetrating because I see effects of it. I see a lot of effects of it. I may not necessarily voice it, but I see it. I see progression here since I've been here with things seeds I've intentionally planted in the ethers, and I see the change.
Right.
I don't try to take credit for
Form
it.
follows consciousness.
Right. But I see it. And I'm just so grateful and thankful. So I have to let you know, though, that before we were planted as a ministry here and incorporated in 1995, that the unity of Jamaica was already here. Temple of Light Church of Religious Science was already here. So New Thought was still already afoot in Jamaica before I arrived and before the Reverend Dr. Johnnie Colemon, my predecessors, and the Reverend Dr. Mary Tumpkin and so many others came in through the Universal Foundation for Better Living, because they would come, they would be invited, and they would support Reverend Goodison Orr, who was Dr. Johnnie Coleman's good friend. He was a unity minister, and she supported him in so many ways, including becoming a minister. And he would invite her down for retreats or for talks or things. And then when she was no longer coming, then Mary would come, because he was in Miami after he left Jamaica. And Mary was basically around the corner from where he was in terms of where our churches were operating. And so she would come down and do retreats and everything, et cetera, et cetera. And so eventually she was continued to be invited. And there were a group of people that said that, you know, we want to study New Thought the way that you teach it. And so they formed a little group called the Nature of God class. And that class met around a tree. And then from there, the people started to say, well, we need something on a Sunday. And Mary says, well, I got my church in Florida, and so I can't do no church here. And so I was up for ordination and had been. I mean, I'd been in the track for maybe 5 years or so. And I'd never asked, you know, when is ordination? Because again, I was just helping Mary. And one day she said, it's time for you to go up and meet with the committee. And of course I passed. And when I came back, she said to me, I have an assignment for you for 6 months to go to Jamaica for 6 months and, you know, get the people ready. I've already started. I've gotten them in the teacher training course. I've got everything started. So what you'll do is in 6 months, then they'll be ready to take over themselves. So it was never the intention that a American would come into the Caribbean and stay. As a matter of fact, if staying had been presented to me at that time, I would have said no. I'm going to tell you that. Because, you know, I was on my career path and I was really at the height of some things I'd been working for to happen, and just had lots of options laid out before me, and just decided that this was something I needed to do. 6 months. And then pretty much my God worked through my boss for that to happen. He created it. I thought I had to resign. So I went in with a letter of resignation, Reverend Celeste, and he tore it up in my face and said, this is how you're going to do it. Now, he is not a church man, don't go to church or anything. So I knew it was God. So I just listened to him. And so, you know, the way it was made for me to work a 4-day work week, get all my work done. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was in Jamaica. And so Sunday night, I would fly back home and be at work on Monday morning. And so I did that for 4 years. Look at God. Yeah, I did that for 4 years. And then I was tired. At that point, I was tired. So yeah, everything worked out. Yeah. So I would say study was the important thing I got from Reverend Mary, and teach from the overflow. Teach from the overflow. And of course, integrity. Spiritual integrity. Be in integrity with the principles that you're teaching. It's key. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you defied the odds in 1986 when the doctors told you that you had less than 6 days to live. Now, what's that story? And how do you use the teaching to triumph over your life-threatening challenge?
Well, you know, the thing is that I believe, and I have been taught, that the principles that we teach, the spiritual principles that we teach, are practical, which means they can be applied in your life, your world, and your affairs. So there's no situation that you can meet up against that the principles can't be applied. See, God is always your life. No matter what the doctors say, God is your life. No matter how you feel, God is your life. That life is perfect. And that life is my life right now. That is my life. Yes. And so what you do during those times is you find teachers who can minister to you with that truth. And so my teachers were my books. My teachers were past lessons that I had learned. You know, what does all of that really mean, given where I am at this particular time in my life? What does all of that mean? So I never gave attention to 6 days and started counting. I never thought that I wouldn't be there. Was it easy? No. No, it was a journey. But what I know is that if I keep my consciousness filled with words of life and truth about who I am, about how the body is in the mind and not the mind in the body, then everything would take care of itself. And so I just continued to do that. And I tell you, Reverend Celeste, one of my blessings was that the doctors didn't allow me to like get flowers or anything like that because they didn't know what would be on the flowers, et cetera. And so, and I also didn't have a lot of guests. And if I did have a guest, they had to, have on like pretty much like now, wear a mask,
Sure.
put on the apron or whatever that thing is called, and all of that. And so I didn't have like a lot of guests, only specific people, and not many and not frequent. And so I had a lot of time to just do the work and write out my affirmations and put them all around my room and do all of that. And one of the things that I saw in that experience was whenever I had a room with somebody, I don't think that happened until I went to New York because they didn't want me around anybody. I was like the girl in the bubble. And I remember what I began to see was all of my roommates, because I had affirmations up all the way leading into the restroom and everything, they would have to pass them and they read them and everything. And all my roommates went home before I did. And I was just fussing with God. Here I am doing this work and everybody going home but me. Oh, help me. But I kept working the affirmations, everything. And then what I didn't see, and I only saw it years later, and I don't mean a long time ago, what I saw was I was there to be a healing influence. I was there to be a healing influence, even as I was going through what I was going through, and I was there to be influenced by the healing power of God.
Yes.
So that I, with whatever the work was that the Spirit had me to do, that I would have this faith that even in the face of death, I wouldn't be afraid.
Okay.
You see?
That's it.
So it's a great gift. It's a great gift that I received. So when people say, well, you're fierce and you're just no nonsense. And that's because if you can look death in the face and say you're nothing.
Yes.
And I'm not afraid. Then you can look at anything, money,
well, that's Emma Curtis Hopkins. It's like matter is nothing. So don't even get caught up, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that if God is the one creator, the one creator, by that I mean everything then comes out of the God presence. And if God's presence is absolute good, then the absolute goodness of God is everywhere. But we must train ourselves to see it. We trained ourselves to see evil. We trained ourselves to see what isn't working. We've trained ourselves. But in the midst of all of that, who can see the God presence in the midst? And you have to work with yourself in order to be able to do that. And we all fall off the boat. Don't think I sit and see it all the time. I don't. But what I'm working with myself to say, God, how do you show up here? Well, Sheila, it's no difference. I am who I am. And I am here as life, as love, as wisdom, as the way through, over, and out. I'm here as the solution. I'm here as that open door. Stop staring at that closed door. Stop staring at what they said and listen to what I'm telling you. Sometimes I hear it so clear, Reverend Celeste, where God is saying, you're so busy listening to them. You're not listening to what I'm saying. And I say, yes, I am. Right. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. That's the kind of God conversations I have. And I say, okay. I'm listening now. I'm listening. Then there's silence. And I just keep listening. And sure enough, and I said, God, you're so right. I was not listening. It was right in front of my face. And I didn't even see it. And I just want to thank you for your patience with me. That's how I talk to the God presence in me.
Amen. Because, we get so programmed by all these illusions of fear, and it seems like it's greater than what's within, but that's impossible.
Greater is he that is within me than he that is within the world.
Amen.
No weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Yes.
In the beginning, God, in the end, God, and every point in between, God, and more of God.
Whither shall I go? Right?
Yes.
So after your healing, you fulfilled your dream of becoming an attorney at law.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what is that spiritual quality that drew you to the legal field? And how have you used those principles in your law practice?
Well, First of all, I have to say that while I am a licensed attorney and in good standing with the Florida Bar, I am, and I will keep my license active. I paid a whole lot of money to get that license. And but I'm not so much actively practicing. I mean, every day you do something in law. Every day, whether it's from cleaning up that water so nobody slips and falls, you know, whether it's making sure the people who, not so much now because of the pandemic, but make sure the people who come on your property are safe, that you take a certain responsibility when you invite people onto your property. I mean, all of that is always in my head, and I thank God for that. So I usually see things that other people don't see because I'm looking through so many different lenses. But what I love is that law is based on principle. It's not a feel-good thing. It's based on a principle that has been accepted as a legal principle. And so then now your interpretations of that principle flow from there. It's just like in the teaching. There's a principle, but then how you interpret the principle and apply it in your life may vary depending on person to person because we're all operating from a different framework of understanding.
Sure.
Make sense? And so in the legal profession, it's exactly the same way. And so there are fundamental truths that underlie this legal principle. And so since as a metaphysician, I'm always able to just say, okay, start with the spiritual principle, the legal principle that grows out of it, and then go ahead and plan how I will work the case based on that principle.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a proponent for assisting and transforming youth who've been caught up in the court system. How have you found inner peace in navigating the challenges as an advocate for youth in the judicial system?
Well, I became a guardian ad litem when I was in law school. I think it was maybe my second or my third year. I actually became a guardian ad litem, which meant I represented the interest of children on a pro bono basis. This is something extra. They always need guardians. Anybody can be a guardian. You don't even have to be an attorney to be a guardian. So whomever is listening, you can be a guardian for a child that's in the court system, wherever you are. Simply look up guardian ad litem, litem, and look that up. And they can always use people to speak and represent the interest of children. And so I had the pleasure of doing that for a few years. I can't remember how many, but of course, once I was doing Jamaica, I was unable to do it because I would miss my court dates. And so when the teens I was working with aged out of the system, I didn't take a new set of children to be their guardian. But if I ever get back to Florida, that's something I'd be interested in doing.
But I take it these were youths of color.
Actually, they were not.
Like Black or brown?
No, they were not. You're actually just assigned. Yeah. I was actually just assigned. Most of the young people that I worked with were youth associated through the church, the ministry.
Okay.
They were the children of color. And so let's take Maya, for example. Maya wanted to be an attorney. And so when I had the speaking engagement at Miami-Dade Community College, what did I do? I took Maya. Well, today, Maya is a practicing attorney in Broward County, Florida.
Great.
And she is the one who reminded me that she never forgot. And when she was applying to law school, she wrote me and told me and blah, 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 blah. And, so it's just wonderful to see. There was another youth. We were poster girls. She was the child. And this was for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So there's a Big Brother, Big Sister poster floating out there from Miami, Florida. And I'm the big sister and she's the little sister. And that was Stacy. That's a young lady of color as well. So she's grown up now, has her family, and is doing well also. And so what is that these young people they could very easily have been you. And one of the things that I know is that there were people who took me under their wings. There were people who showed me stuff that I'd never known of before. And so I have an obligation then to give that back. And so here in Jamaica, even now, what I'm doing is I'm doing a big tablet drive because there's so many children that are disenfranchised. They don't have internet at home. They
Right.
don't have a tablet. They're not keeping up. The school doesn't have one to give to them. And so I've been doing that and since about December. And I'm about to do another set of tablets, giving that away as well. And so people see me and they say, oh, I want to help with that. And I'm going, okay, come on and help. That's fabulous. And
Yeah.
so I'm about to give away another set now because a young lady that I went to college with, actually one of my sorority sisters, her mom passed away and she wanted to do a donation in memory of her mom. So I wrote her last week and told her the tablets are in for the donations received under your mom's fund, and we will be distributing those to a school in Mandeville, Jamaica. A principal or a teacher
Wonderful.
wrote me and said, my students just don't have, and if you could help in any way, it would be wonderful. So we've got that box
Yeah,
all
you
packed
can't
up, ready
function
to
in
get
this world.
Hmm?
Yeah, you can't function in this world without technology, that's for sure.
Yes, yes. And so one of the things we make sure of is that the teachers are then going to make provision for the children to even use the internet at school in order to stay up and to do their work. And so they have, so it's not
Sure.
just giving them a tablet. We're working through the school to make sure that they're going to have access, et cetera, et cetera. So the school is involved.
Cool. Now
So it's
you are amazing and fierce, and you're building all kind of bridges. Now, what is your highest and best dream for the global New Thought movement?
okay. My highest vision for New Thought at this time is that we will really learn what our teaching is, that we
Mm-hmm.
will study its history so that we are not apologizing for who we are and how we show up,
Yeah.
that we will be able to show that we have roots, that we didn't just spring up one day as a positive thinking movement, that
Right.
positive thinking is we think positive. I tell people I think positive, not because I'm a positive thinker. I think positive because I believe the nature of God is good. And I believe God is everywhere evenly present as that good. So therefore my outlet look is optimistic and it's positive. But I don't tell people, oh, just find something positive and say it like a parrot, because I know that it has to stick, like Velcro. There has to be
Yes.
something that is a stick for you. And, you can
Yeah.
just think a positive thought and then it rains on your head and then you're not positive anymore. But if you've got a core set of principles from which you work, the omnipresence of God, the divinity within all humankind, that there's value in the way that you think and how you align with that omnipresence and how it lands in
Yes.
the world. There's value in stealing away and being still, practicing the spiritual discipline of solitude. And there is a manifestation of working these principles in your life, world, and your affairs. It manifests in the way you speak. It manifests in the way you think. It manifests in the way you feel. It manifests in your way you act and react in the world. So there
Yes.
is when you don't know the teaching, then it's kind of hard to hold on to it, particularly in challenging times.
Yeah.
You, so the
You
deeper the
can't fake
root,
it. It can't
the
just
deeper
be
the,
mouthing
yeah, the deep,
words, right?
say that again.
I say you can't fake it. You can't just be mouthing words.
Well, I mean, you can, but if you really want a consistent demonstration of the word, then there must be power and conviction behind the word spoken.
Yes.
There must be a
Yes.
certain knowingness, a certain understanding that then infuses the word spoken and then
Yes. That's the
delivers the
fire.
result delivers the result.
Yes.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Now, is there anything that's coming up that you want to promote? Any program or lesson or event? I know there's not a lot of events going on right now, but is there anything that you want our international audience to know about?
Yes, on April the 30th, the Universal Foundation for Better Living, where I serve as president, will be hosting a discussion on the 15 keys to prosperity as presented by Dr. Johnnie Colemon in her book, It Works If You Work It.
Excellent.
And so that will be on the UFBL Facebook and Instagram page. So we'll have that information there. And it'll be an open discussion. It'll be on Zoom, I think. But the information will be there. And we'll be talking about the keys that she presents to a prosperity consciousness. So many times people just give up because, they say things are hard. And I'm not saying that people aren't having particular experiences, but there's a particular way you go through an experience.
Yes.
It's just like that healing challenge I've had. And there's a particular consciousness that I adopted going through that. And that is, I'm going to saturate my consciousness in the healing stories that Catherine Ponder tells, in the healing truths that I've been hearing, in the healing truths that I heard Dr. Johnnie Colemon tell about her early 1950s challenges when the doctor said she had less than 6 months to live. And I'm going to saturate my consciousness in that. And so as I saturate my consciousness in that and refuse to look at the other, then I am now forming and molding a consciousness of health and healing and wholeness, because those are the lessons that I am imparting to myself. Those are the lessons I'm listening for. Those are the lessons that are being embedded in me day in and day out. I have no time for television. I have no time for a bunch of visitors asking me, what is it and what did the doctor say? And I keep regurgitating all that's not working for me over and over and over again. Instead, I'm regurgitating what's working for me. I'm regurgitating what has worked for me. I'm regurgitating what I want to see happen. I'm regurgitating what happened to the woman with the issue of blood. I'm regurgitating all of the stories, like Myrtle Fillmore's healing story, like Johnnie Colemon's healing story, like the people in Dynamic Laws of Healing that Catherine Ponder talks about. I'm regurgitating their stories. You see.
And so, well, it sounds like I better be there, because I want to hear this and experience this myself.
Yeah. And so we have to ask ourselves, then, what spiritual truths are we holding on to? Are we meditating upon? What prosperity message are you holding to? Maybe it's one line. Maybe it's something you heard once. What is it that you're holding on to during this time? Whatever your situation is, you have to find something to hold on to, because if you hold on to that principle, it'll hold on to you. And of course, if it's a healing issue, I invite you to get 12 Steps to Your Healing. 12 Steps to Your Healing. It's available on Amazon, and it's also available as a Kindle book. And it's only $7 or $8. God told me make it $7 or $8. Anybody can get it anytime. And so, and work with that, and begin to shift your mindset to I can make it, and that God is for me, and that healing is my birthright, rather than, oh, this disease has me and it's going to kill me, you see. So work with yourself, and know that what you're working with is working.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, I just so appreciate who you are, and I just see the spirit oozing out of you with such ease, and you are a walking principle. And I'm so glad you said yes to coming on Mystic Magic.
I am very honored to have been invited. And just know that I send a blessing to one and all of your listeners. Just know that you are in my prayers, all of you. And I ask you to keep me in yours.
Thank you. We will.
Thank you.
This is Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives.
The very thing you want to see has more of you to be. The one who brings you food for your soul calls for you to be faithful and bold. God is waiting for you to listen to its word. It needs to be heard. That which attracts you is for you. That which detracts you is not for you. There's a blessing within. There's no guessing to win. You can't speak what you don't know and expect your blessings to flow. Study truth as much as you can. God will be there to give you a hand. And when the well is full, the vision will pull you into your greatest yet. Try it and you'll be set. Thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to check out our show notes for more information about today's episode. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and all of your favorite podcast venues. Be sure to subscribe to be notified when the next episode comes out. We don't want you to miss a thing. Now, be sure to tune in next time for the next Mystic Magic episode. If this show has been a blessing to you, please consider financially supporting the show. There's a little link there in our show notes to make it easy for you. This is Mystic Magic, exploring our spirit to understand our lives.